Hey there. Welcome to the No Sugar Added podcast, where three friends keep it real and don't sugarcoat what's wrong with today's relationships and dating scene, with your host, Dan, JFabs, and Jean-Claude.
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to No Sugar Added. I am your host, Dan, joined with Jean-Claude and JFabs.
Yo,
what's going
back,
on?
Baby, we're back.
What's going on,
Yes,
guys?
it has been like 2 months since our last episode.
Has it been 2 months?
July.
Wait, when did we?
July 10th was our last episode.
Oh, no, that was. Is that when the episode dropped?
It dropped.
Oh, okay. No, but last time since we recorded was in June because it was before I went to Ecuador. So it's been some time, yeah. It's been some time.
Nice summer break, huh?
Yeah. Sorry to the viewers or listeners. We had an unofficial summer hiatus because we have busy lives. So yeah.
Life goes on.
Yeah. I mean, I saw you more than you were a
Yeah.
ghost. You were gone.
I saw Joshy.
You were a hermit. I saw him. We played ball and tennis a couple times.
We went to
Yeah.
the movies. We held hands.
All the time.
Damn, bro.
Double
Just-
feature.
You just ghosted me like that? It's cold.
It was a good movie.
Yeah.
Ease.
Double feature. It was good.
Yeah, I did yesterday. It was good.
Oh, you saw it too?
Yeah, I saw
Both
the
of them?
Nun. I saw Nun in the Creator.
Oh, none was good. I liked it better than the first one.
None was trash.
Yep.
The Creator, though, I could go talk about it for a whole 2 hours. I have so many ideas on it. It's a
Alright.
metaphor. It's an analogy for so many things.
But not towards this
Not
topic
towards
of
this podcast,
relationships.
obviously, because
Yeah.
this is a relationship podcast.
Yeah.
And we're out here to give out some
Would you
opinions.
date an AI robot? Like,
You know, that could be a potential idea for a future episode. I mean, the way AI is going
Or
and the
maybe-
way the creator was, the way the creator set things up. That's possible.
society might be leaning towards that.
I mean, it sort of is already. You've seen those videos, but there's just
That's a different topic.
Maybe these dating apps are recording all your information so they can create their own artificial intelligent robot.
So they want a robot of me out there, like
There's an algorithm out there that's basically recording all your transactions and what you like to hear and don't like to hear. Just,
You're sipping that Kool-Aid. You are
man.
sipping that Kool-Aid. It's all good. So,
Anyways, today's topic is about toxic relationships.
oh, I know so many. Oof. If I could call them all out by name, I would, but I'm not.
This guy.
But just just to dive into this topic, first we got to understand what a toxic relationship is.
Everybody?
As Claudio breaks his finger on opening up a can. So
That's a friend.
toxic relationship. What is it?
Do you want our opinions?
I mean, yeah, sure. Let's do that. Well,
I think. So I don't want to say they're bi-directional. I want to say the majority of them are unidirectional. So one person is toxic towards the other person, and the other person knows that or has not come to realize that. That's what I think majority of toxic relationships are. Very rarely have I heard of a bi-directional toxic relationship with both people are toxic. Very rarely do I hear about them. But I think a toxic relationship is where usually one person just pushes, remember all the red flags we were talking about a couple episodes ago?
yeah.
Pushes all these red flags on this other individual. This other individual either knows about it, understands it, what's happening, but they can't leave, or they're unaware that they're in a toxic relationship and someone has to point out to them.
Yeah,
But,
I think starting off in a relationship, you don't really see those signs because I think that behavior starts to come out more and more as that
Yeah.
person feels comfortable with them.
Yeah, I definitely think after time, it's those features and traits start manifesting, and then they start realizing is this part of their normal character? Is this a forever type of trait they're going to be having? Stuff like that. But yeah, I definitely think it comes with time. It doesn't start up. Well, I mean, I know some people who. Yeah, I'm going to agree with you. Yeah.
I mean, the onion, eventually the layer starts to be peeled off the onion here.
Yeah, always coming out some kind of fucking analogy.
well,
Analogy, metaphor.
the thing too is the
similes.
more you're with someone, the more you start obviously as you're dating them, as you're in a relationship with them, you start experiencing new things with one another, right? And now you're sharing your own personal reactions to certain things with someone else, and that's where you start unraveling certain things about yourself or someone else And that's when you're really gonna. Well, as you were saying, you might not realize it until maybe until it's too late, or until you're not realizing like how abusive emotionally or maybe even physically it can be,
or verbally.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta think about the different types of toxic relationship. Like you said, verbal abuse, like
emotional, physical,
even controlling behaviors,
and some are
manipulation. Yeah, I mean, it's there.
And some are codependent toxic relationships. They both require each other to be toxic. As one example that we'll give out further in this podcast about a coworker of mine. Now that's a spicy one, but continue, please.
All right, so I think we got covered of the somewhat understanding.
Yeah,
of it.
Toxic relationships.
It's more or less trying to identify those as you might be in that, or you might not know somebody who might be in that side of the field.
Unrealized, yeah.
Do you think that people realize that they're in toxic relationships more often than other people tell them? Like in my opinion, I think more people figure out they're in toxic relationships because other people point out certain things to them. I don't think people realize it themselves, for the most part.
Yeah.
At least in the scenarios that I have seen throughout my life, it's usually when friends tell like, hey, that guy, no bueno. And then they come to realize they put pieces together like, oh my God, I'm in a toxic relationship. And they didn't realize.
Yeah, I mean, it's more like they might not realize it at first, but when they're about to argue with that couple, they try to do everything to avoid a conflict, or maybe they walk on eggshells because they don't want to upset that person.
Because
it's
they're
like
aware of the behavior.
They're aware, and they just try to avoid that side of them at all costs.
I think a lot of people too may not realize how like they suppress their own emotions when maybe in these interactions, and then not realizing that through continuous interactions in that way, that it eventually you might need intervention from someone like a friend or a family member who sees you in an unstable emotional state to really open that individual's eyes in the relationship.
I completely agree.
Yeah,
sometimes there needs to be intervention, especially in those. I won't say one is better than the other. I think that all three are in the same category, but at the end of the day, I feel like a physical toxic one is worse than the other ones. I'm not saying that one is better than the other, but physical hurts. Physical can kill you. To me, those are the toxic. That's the worst type of toxic. But then there comes the emotional, with the mental strain of the emotional and the verbal part that can leave emotional scars for the rest of your life that will somehow dictate or change how you as a person will be for the remainder of your time because of those scars.
It's like they say, sometimes it's the emotional and the mental scars are the ones that are the hardest to heal than a physical wound. So it's definitely a hard one for someone to get over,
That's true. I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. But yeah, toxic relationships, not good.
Yeah, I'm ready to hear some stories from
Jean-Claude.
Okay, so I'm not going to give tons. I'm only going to give one. But I know so many people in toxic relationships. But it is what it is. That's life. That's life. That's life. They choose that, so be it. Once they realize that it's not for them, if they want to leave, by all means, go for it. Free yourself. I have a coworker. He likes crazy. Okay, that's what he tells me all the time. Every day he'll come into work, and we're really good friends. Every day he'll come into work and he'll tell me, Claudio, I got into the stupidest fight with my wife. I almost just walked out that door and never came back. Mind you, this is every day. Every day he's saying this. I'm like, bro, what happened? What did he do? Like, she's blaming me for not taking out the chicken to defrost, and now I can't feed the family, I can't feed the baby. I'm just like, oh, mind you, they have a 1-year-old child. Okay, they've been married for 1 year, but they've been together for 11 years. This girl is, I won't say crazy. I'll say she is misunderstood because my friend is no walk in the park himself. Like I said, like I mentioned before, this is a codependent toxic relationship. So he's toxic and she's toxic. She's straight off the boat from Puerto Rico, like 15 years ago. She still kind of has that immigrant mentality and whatnot. And she's, like Puerto Rican crazy. We all know what that is, right? Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The silence coming over here.
That's Jean-Claude's interpretation.
Yeah, Puerto Rican crazy. We all know it. We all know some Puerto Ricans are a little crazy. But they get into verbal fights every day. He gets kicked out of his home, I want to say 3 times a month.
Yeah.
He will sleep at his mom's house maybe 8 days out of the month because of the fights are that bad. They just nip at each other. They can't help it. And at the same time, I'm like, bro, why don't you just leave? Like, I understand that you have a kid, and I understand that you're kind of like in a loveless marriage because they kind of don't love each other really. They're, after they had the kid, they were like, this was the worst decision we've ever made. We just
Papers.
Huh?
What? No, sorry.
Bloopers?
No, what?
Bloopers.
Papers.
Oh,
Oh, I
papers.
think you say creepers.
No, Puerto Rico's already US
yeah,
territory. Yeah. No need for papers, bro. God. And so I told him, like, why not just leave? And obviously they have a kid, and they're sticking it together for the kid. Mind you, the kid is only 1, so they have another 17 years to go. And I don't know if they'll make it, but I tell them all the time, like, bro, just get a divorce. Just make yourself happy and pay her the alimony and the child support, and give you both yourselves like time to just like separate and just like work on yourselves, because you guys.
How old is the child? Or
child is 1. My coworker's 28, and his wife is how old is she?
I don't know. I can't answer that.
She's either 29 or 30. I forget if she's a year or 2 older than him, but regardless. Yeah, and they just don't work. But then when I tell him that, do you know what he tells me? Like, I can't, bro. Like, why? Like, because I love her. Like, you just told me you don't love her. Right. Like, yeah, I love her, and I don't love her. I'm like, I'm so confused. What is
like marriage?
I'm like, what does that mean? Like, I love the crazy. I love the toxic. The toxic brings out the best in me. I'm like,
wait, that's what he said.
yeah. I'm like, the toxic brings out the best in you. And in my mind, I'm just like, you come into work looking depressed every single day. How does this bring out the best in you? And to me, it's that codependent toxicity, left and right, the arguments, the manipulation, the constant gaslighting they both do to each other. And at the worst part, his mom has gotten involved in their marriage countless times because she also sees the signs, because she's a psychotherapist of some sort. I forget in what field.
A psychic?
No, a psychotherapist.
Oh, that's
Like psychoanalytics.
Oh, okay.
Like a branch of psychology.
Okay.
And she sees it herself, and she has gone into those arguments with them, like, just break up, make yourself, like, give yourself your lives back, because you obviously hate each other, but they can't help it. They need to stay together, because apparently if they break up, they won't know what life is worth anymore if they're not together. And to me, it's an extreme of a toxic relationship where they're both codependent. They need to be toxic to each other to make each other happy, even though they love the misery. And if they didn't have it, they wouldn't know what they were. Toxic.
I will say, though, I would be pretty upset, too, if that chicken wasn't left out to defrost.
Oh, my Lord. Order Popeyes. Go order.
Well, see, they're right there. That's the problem, because then if you would have defrosted that chicken, you would have been eating a nice, healthy meal with your wife and your kid.
Here we go.
Now you can eat a nice healthy meal
at Popeyes.
Yeah,
sure,
they have blackened chicken.
Popeyes.
Blackened chicken.
Popeyes is pure crap. We all know
Blackened
that.
chicken.
Sorry, Popeyes, but
Sorry, Popeyes. Yo, they're gonna sponsor this fucking podcast, bro.
sorry, Popeyes.
We're gonna lose fucking sponsors over here.
Well,
Sponsored by.
I'm just Chicken Purdue. Maybe we'll get Tyson.
But yeah, that's an extreme. Well, I wouldn't say that's an extreme, but that's a rare codependent toxic relationship. One of the first I've ever heard of in my life. But I know another toxic relationship. A friend of mine who is no longer a friend. You know, she lived down the block. I'm not gonna say her name.
Skylar?
Yeah. Okay. She has been in a myriad of toxic relationships. And when I say myriad, I mean like 7 in the span of 5 years. what do you call it? She just somehow always picked wrong guys who treated her like shit, but she was okay with it because in her mind, like, as long as I can get married and have a kid, I'll be fine. The kid and the marriage will fix that toxic personality inside that person. And she would go, bro, I'm telling you, she would stay with these men for more than they should have. Like, I said 7 and 5 years. Maybe I misspoke. Maybe it should have been more like 7 and 9 years. Each of them lasted more than a year. Way more than they should have. And each one of them, none of them were ever physically abusive, but all of them were verbally and emotionally abusive. I remember I would get texts randomly, and like, because we used to work together for like 5 years, like side by side. I remember she would text me after work and like, oh, he did this, he called me fat. Like, just like emotionally, like, draining. Like, just hearing her complain about her situations, like, emotionally draining. I'm like, yo, just leave. Like, I can't, I love him. I'm like, why do you like to hurt yourself?
I think also, like, when that behavior becomes continuous, whether it's multiple boyfriends with a continuous pattern of that sort of effect on one another, I think also, at least from you know, I subscribe to sometimes these Instagram pages where they discuss and they talk to other individuals as well, you know, based off like tell us about this, tell about that. And I remember hearing one specifically of a female who has been in those sorts of relationships, and a good guy who, you know, has a nice upbringing probably, you know, comes into this girl's life who has been, her past is just decorated with all these sorts of like toxic sort of relationships in that manner. And then here comes this guy, and she won't know what this guy is to her because what she knows is all that she's been through. And that guy is just going to look so foreign to her, and like, she's just going to be like, no, I need someone toxic because of those past experiences are like home to her.
Are the only thing they know.
That's home. That's all she knows. She wouldn't know anything different from this new guy coming into her life who
it's completely different.
Probably a different, I would assume he's taking a different mannered approach to her, you know, maybe a more traditional, maybe a more upfront, honest approach.
Proper.
Exactly. And then here comes, and then yet, if you were to pair this man and then all of a sudden bring another toxic man into her life, she would go with the toxic man because that's home. That's what she knows. That's how she knows how to operate in. She knows the ins and outs of it, but she's more fearful of what she doesn't know than what she knows, the toxic man, which sounds like maybe this friend of yours possibly came into the scenario in that way. Maybe
Who
knows?
I remember one time my sister actually mentioned that this friend, because it's a mutual friend that, well, no longer friend of ours anymore. She was a masochist. You know, like, she liked hurting herself. She liked going back to the guys who would emotionally and verbally
put her down.
Yeah, put her down and gaslight her because she enjoyed it. Like, subconsciously, she did enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's kind of crazy. But then you just reminded me about something. I remember one time I did ask her, like, why don't you just leave? And then her response, and then I came to realize, as like, I've known a lot of people in toxic relationships. I've asked the same question multiple times, and it never really like stuck with me until I had a conversation with this one friend. It's like, oh, he's not always that bad, you know. It's just sometimes. But the worst part is that I think about it. Like, all the other times I told my other friends, like, why don't you just leave? They gave me the same.
They justify it.
Yeah, they justify it. And then in my mind, it's just like, yeah, they could be all good. I mean, like, yo, you could be dating the greatest person on earth, but if you know that they're a serial killer, it doesn't mean that all the good they do counterbalances the bad they do.
How do you justify someone's actions? Someone's, you know,
yeah,
actions.
Because a person could be 90% good, and then that 10% bad in them, that 10% could be some of the most atrocious shit on earth. Could be genocidal levels of atrociousness. And you're going to tell me just because they're 90% good at the time, it's okay? You're going to defend them? Yeah. No, get the fuck out of here. Stop romanticizing this idea of a person, oh, this good in him or this good in her. That's what I fight for. That's why I keep them around. That's why I can't leave, because I hope that just takes over their toxic traits. Like, no. those toxic traits aren't going nowhere. They're most likely going to spread. Please stop defending the toxic traits, thinking that the good traits are going to take over. That's not how it works. Ever.
Stop beating the dead horse.
Yeah, that's what I think. And it's just like, it's crazy how a lot of people use that excuse, like, oh, but they're not always that bad. They're sweet sometimes.
Yeah.
Majority of the times, they're sweet. Like, yeah, but what about the times that make you cry all the time? What about the times that make you wonder why you're even in this relationship anymore? What about the times that make you wonder, why did you ever get into this relationship?
Yeah, I mean, I can recall way back in so many years ago in the past.
Let's all go with flashback. Oh, man.
When
that Xbox in the car, or was it a PlayStation?
No, that was after that. It was an Xbox, first of all. Hey, someone's got to parent those kids, and but yeah,
he's coming after you.
But he's
gonna see in the streets.
Rumor has it he still has the Xbox.
Xbox One. But no, I mean, I think everyone to a point, I think, can discuss a previous relationship, discuss like some of those toxic traits or those toxic feelings that you might have received from maybe someone you were talking to or someone you were, just spending your time with, So I think all of us have an idea, and then I guess it's some of us react to those instantaneous things, but then some of us like have this belief or this idea, like, oh, this is my person, this is my. This is like this person's checking on my box, but you know what?
Oh, back to the boxes. References. There we go.
I know we talked about on some previous podcasts and flags and things to that, but sometimes I think we ignore these flags or we ignore certain things and we create boxes on our new checklist, and we're just kind of like, this is my person, and then you start ignoring certain things on there, and I think a lot of those things can probably lead to. If you end up with this person in a relationship, that you're going to grow some crazy toxic behaviors. But yeah, I think some people it just plays further, Some people put a stop to it quick. Some people just continue on because it's what they know, right?
Yeah. Oh man, you just got really sad thinking about it right now.
Yeah.
That's actually really sad.
Some people they're so blind to it, right? Some people are in it and then they don't, or to be honest with you, I feel like there's probably different ways of perceiving it or looking at it, because I'm sure there are some who realize certain things, but then they kind of like, whether it's their past histories or whether it's just like,
or like they're so deep already into it, what's the point of leaving?
They're so into it, or maybe there's like maybe there's just a physical attraction to this individual. This person might really like be like so beautiful, so like well dressed. They smell good perfume or cologne, whatever it is. They're so into this individual, and they start to ignore certain traits, like, whether they don't text me right away, or I can't find them when I need them, or I can't talk to them when it would be normal for two individuals who are on the same wavelengths within a relationship to continuously talk to one another. I think some people just at some point, there's reasons why people do why people like continue this thing with that other person, whether it's they think they're beautiful, or they're just like, oh, they love the same things I like. If I stop talking to this person, who am I going to do these things with? Like, they just feel like there's a loss of a hope, I think, sometimes when people continue to ignore these flags, and they know that this person or this relationship or the toxicity within it is not good. It's not good for their health, their personal health. But they're like, I think they lose hope, right? Like, who am I going to spend this time with? Or this is it.
They don't want to be alone.
Yeah, or age, right? Like, I'm already 30, whatever. Like, who else am I going to find? Or like, I don't have I'm out of college, or I'm out of school, or whatever. Like,
okay, they think the person they're with is the end all be all.
Yeah, this is like this is it. Like, this is like in their perception of what they see. It's like, this is it for me. I'm not gonna find anyone else. So they continue on in their,
I completely agree with you. You've watched Big Mouth, right?
Yeah, of course. A little bit.
Have you watched Big Mouth?
No, I've seen parts. But
have you watched the spinoff HR or Human Resources?
Yeah.
Have you watched the spinoff?
No.
Have you watched season 2 by any chance?
Yes.
The one with Hugh Jackman he's lust.
Yeah.
Hold on, you just brought up a very good point. The show, it's comedy, but it's also a metaphor for most. I keep on forgetting if it's a metaphor or analogy. I'm not really. I forget which one's which. It's a metaphor, analogy, or maybe even a simile to actual relationships in the real world. In human resources, it's based off the emotions. So, like, there's the hormone monster, who loves just having sex, and they teach kids like, hey, sex is good, whatever. And then there's the love bug. The love bug's job is to, when you fall in love, it's to help you with all aspects of love. And then there's other things like depression and anger and whatever. Shame, the shame wizard. That one's funny. But in season 2, they brought on Hugh Jackman to voice Lust. Lust is think of like this little purple angel with like a biker jacket, spikes. He's a bad boy. And Love Bug just wants to love. She just wants to find a love of her own, like a true love. But she gets enveloped within the character Lust, and he is the typical toxic person. Dan, you remember how he treated her like shit, but she could not help herself because he looked good and he smelled good, and because he was lust incarnate. His pheromones of lust would just like bathe her, and she was like, "Fuck, I gotta bang this guy out right fucking now. Like I need to be with him because I like this feeling." Like you said, you strip away the emotions and you just leave the shallowness. I'm not saying people are shallow. I'm just saying the physical aspects of being shallow, of like, the looks and the way they dress and the way they smell. If that becomes your main focus and you're okay with throwing off the toxic points to the side, and like, I'm with this person because of these things, I cannot give a shit about the toxic traits.
Yeah.
That does happen.
You don't want to realize.
Yeah.
Because if you realize, then you're just like, oh, logic kicks in, and logic's like, then you shouldn't be here. Yeah. And no one wants to get to that point of like, oh, they don't want their common sense to kick in and tell them like what they know they need to do. Yeah,
I always think in toxic relationships, like I mentioned before, I think that most people realize they're in toxic relationships when someone else points it out to them. Very in comparative to when someone realizes that they're in one. But I think subconsciously, everyone, and no matter which scenario, in the back of their mind, that person realized like, this person's not good for me, subconsciously. Yeah. But it's a trickling thought that passes by real quick, and they don't want to pay attention to it because they don't want to destroy the fallacy of their relationship. You know? So they're like, oh, that was a quick, intrusive thought. I'm going to forget about that and put that in a box and throw it in the darkness of my mind. I think that does happen.
Yeah. I mean, like, people who, even you brought up like sex too. Like, there's people too, they're willing to ignore everything for the type of pleasure that they receive from a certain individual. It's a trade-off that people make, maybe whether consciously or unconsciously they make, but they continue to stay in that toxic relationship, whether it's for a trade-off of whether that partner that they perform sex with, and how that might be more pleasurable.
They perform sex with? They have sex with? Yeah. You say perform, I'm like, yo, they're about to give a show?
This fucking guy, with the lights on and a tripod. But yeah, but beyond that, account. But like, that's a certain thing that there's a certain mind frame that they're not willing to trade that for what, like, I kind of go back to, if you're an individual who, has common sense, but also has an understanding of like what toxicity is within a relationship, I think that it's hard. But even knowing that, I think it's hard too for someone to be like, man, do I really want to give up this sort of sex with this person, and how good it might feel compared to maybe some previous relationships where that individual probably didn't feel like they were receiving maximum benefit from their sexual performances in bed, whatever. But I think you get what I'm saying here, right? Like, there's certain trade-offs, and some people will decide, like, you know what, this person, as toxic as they might be, I'm receiving all the benefits in bed that I've always wanted, so maybe I should just put my conscious mind to rest and not realize or try to ignore, like, this is toxic for me, with the way that they treat me, with the way that they talk to me, with the way they belittle me, or whatever it might be. And I'm willing to take up all the sexual things that I'm receiving.
The gratification of sex.
Yeah. So
it's a strong thing.
There's different, like we've been talking here, like there's different sorts of things, right, that we can talk about trade-offs and like why someone might fall into that category of a toxic relationship and how that shit all plays out.
We've been talking for like 20 minutes straight. I'm curious what you had to say.
yeah, right.
I've been just indulging in stories.
Yeah.
I don't have any good stories.
No, but what do you think?
I think toxic relationships are awful.
So here's a question for you guys. And I only ask this because I know my answer, obviously, because I'm about to ask you guys the question I already know the answer to myself. Do you think that it's women who are in more toxic relationships, that, you know, they are the ones not toxic, but the men are? Or do you think it's the other way around? That men are in more toxic relationships than women?
That's a tough one.
I think obviously we have a biased response because we're all male.
Well, what does that have to do with it?
No, because we can give our perspective, but we can't give the
Oh, yeah.
the
Oh, no,
opposite
I thought you were...
perspective.
Oh, no, I thought you were saying that because we're male, we're going to side with the males.
No. I mean, maybe we could, but I don't
No.
know.
No, I'm curious. Well,
Oh no, please, no, go ahead. I mean,
Oh, you just straight point to me.
no,
Well,
I thought you were answering. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, are you going to answer?
Yeah, I'm gonna answer.
Okay, yeah, go for it. I'm curious.
All right. Well, it's tough because you don't really hear many stories of women being the person who's toxic in relationships. Nowadays, I'm not trying to throw anybody out there or anything like that, but women sit on this pedestal of just straight yelling about guys doing this, that. But as a guy who might be in a toxic relationship, we don't really say anything because, one, maybe that guy doesn't want to seem like he's being unmanned in some kind of way, you know what I mean?
Stigma towards men and...
Or maybe he just... He doesn't want to tell his boys because his boys are going to make fun of him. Oh, you let that happen?
So he doesn't want to look like a bitch.
Yeah, like a bitch.
Yeah, just say it, bro. Like, he doesn't want to look like a bitch.
So, I don't know, it's kind of hard to say. I don't think I've seen a toxic relationship that a woman was the main character. But I don't know. Who knows?
I know a few.
I have no idea.
I think there are more women in toxic relationships than there are men. I think that men are more toxic than women. I wholeheartedly believe that. I believe that women are more like, that saying that women are more emotional and men are more physical. I feel like we're as not as emotional as women, as I guess you could say, and we hurt where we want to hurt. We will jab.
I think it's easier.
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No,
I also feel like men have this controlling thing in them. They just can't. Not all men, but majority of the toxic relationships that I know, it's the man. Oh God, I'm sorry. The man who has this like controlling. He needs to control. And the only way to control is to be toxic, to gaslight, to make fun of, to belittle, and a couple other things. But at least from what I've seen, that's usually the main characteristic, a controlling characteristic that they exude with all these other mini toxic traits.
Yeah.
What do you think? Men or women?
I mean, I can't pick one or the other. I just think it's both ways, and I think everyone knows a story of someone.
Yeah, but which one is more?
Which one's more?
That's what I'm asking.
I can't.
In reality, it's more men because
who are toxic?
Yeah, because women report it.
That's a good point.
Statistically, right? I mean, you could point that out. I mean,
wow, I didn't think about that.
But men do, and like you were saying before, there's more of a stigma towards men to report things because, they'll call them a bitch.
They don't want to look like a bitch.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's just forget the vernacular. Just go for it. They don't want to be a bitch. Simple as that. No, that's a good point. I didn't think about that. Yeah, that's a good point. Men are less likely to report anything because we don't want to look like a bitch, so we won't say shit. Nah, my girl didn't beat me with a chancleta yesterday. That's from the gym, bro. I just fell down on the weight. It's okay.
Yeah.
Word.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think it's. I think everyone knows someone, right? Whether it's a family member or maybe even a friend, or or you hear stories.
Family members, I know so many.
Yeah, like it goes through the the emotional and the toxicity and all that stuff. It's everyone knows of someone, where it's happened, and it's tough to really, at least for me personally, it's tough for me to say which one receives it more on one end than the other. None of them are good, so it's everywhere. It's more common, I think, now than ever.
You sound like a trained presidential candidate. Like, okay, just avoid, deflect, and avoid the answer. Just 50-50. But yeah, toxic. For those who are in toxic relationships, and you know you're in toxic relationships, and you're staying because of X, Y, and Z,
Yep.
leave. Trust me, you'll feel way better.
Well, this is where we can kind of talk about the last segment of this podcast, and that's kind of being that support person. Like,
In what sense?
like example, you have a friend that's in a toxic relationship. You being the outside person. In this,
Oh, yeah.
You know, so giving them your ear so they can listen, they can vent, they can kind of feel heard and feel, you know, that emotional experience with somebody else.
Yeah, so they can justify what's happening to them.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not crazy, right? This is bad. Like, yeah, of course it's bad. No, I get, yeah. I'm a therapist for everyone.
The voice
I
of
hear
reason.
all the problems all the time.
Yeah, I mean, there's different ways that you could be that support person, right? So listening, kind of being there as a shoulder, you know, let them care, cry, whatever the fuck they want to do.
Lend an ear, yeah.
You can try to convince them to get professional help, but also staying in with that respectful area.
Oh, yeah.
So
Don't call them batshit
that-
crazy.
yeah.
Yo, just be real. Just say the words. No, it's true. Yeah, you want to find that nice balance of like, hey, you should get some help. I'm only saying this as your friend because I love you. Because that person is not good for you. Yeah, no, I totally understand. I agree with that as well.
Yeah, I mean, there's all different kinds of professional help, you know, besides only police, but, you know, got...
Damn, police?
Besides police, depending on the type of toxic relationship, is it abuse? If it's an abuse,
Yeah,
yes.
I'm about to say, like, damn, bro, don't get police
know,
involved because you're being gaslit. That's a little extra.
Maybe their relationship's so bad they might need a shelter depending on their situation.
Oh, yeah. I definitely agree.
Maybe some hotlines are out there that can help.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah,
Different
and
counties, yeah.
And I feel like a dick for not having the hotlines. Shit. Yo, people, Google hotlines for help in toxic relationships.
Yeah, or reach out. I mean, yeah, you can reach out
Domestic
to us.
abuse hotlines. If you're getting domestically abused, Google that shit. Incognito mode. You can't let them find out. Just saying. Well, it's true. Yo, some people just grab other people's phones and look through them like crazy. If they see, you know, domestic abuse hotline, they're like, what are you doing? Incognito mode.
Incognito. That's
Exactly.
Josh, he pulls up his porn.
Wait, hold on. What does Apple have for incognito?
Isn't it
They-
still incognito?
Safari, yeah. They
Oh,
have
I'm not an iPhone user. I don't know.
I think it's called the same across the board.
Yeah, it's like
Is it incognito?
Yeah.
Okay, no, I just thought Apple tried to be special and do their own thing.
But yeah,
Yeah.
there's plenty of different ways of helping a person while staying respectful to their decision.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, hear them out, give advice, help bounce back ideas. That's what it is, I think. A lot of the times when they come at you, not come at you, but like come at you in a good way, like, hey, can you hear me out? Can you listen to what's going on in my life? Can you give me some advice? Can you tell me if I'm going crazy? You know, they want to be heard, and they want to know that what's happening in their life, that they can justify and say, like, this is inappropriate, right? This is not good behavior. And they just want that validation, like, yeah, that's not good. And that alone helps them tremendously. But unfortunately, it doesn't really always change things. You know, just because they're validated, like, okay, yeah, I was being gaslit that whole entire week. But I'm still not going to leave them. And it happens.
Yeah.
It happens. I'm not calling anyone weak-willed or anything. It's situationally. No, it's true. It's situationally based. Like you mentioned before, it could be an age thing. It could be a thing that they're too afraid to go on. They're too afraid probably that they can't find anyone else. That the person they're with right now is the end-all be-all.
Maybe they might have kids with that person.
And my
they've
coworker.
already
There
seen
you
the
go.
finish line with this person. They never thought of an alternative situation where they're not with this person. So it's like, what the heck do I do?
Yeah, you gotta think about, like, depending on the type of abuse they get. Like, if it's a verbal abuse where he's kind of always making her feel ugly and unappreciated in certain ways that she doesn't feel like she might be good enough to get other people.
Oh yeah, putting them down.
Yeah.
So they purposely have low self-esteem so they can never leave.
I said she, but it could be either.
He or she could be telling the individual like, you won't find anyone better than me. You won't. This is it. And that could eventually bleed into someone's mind if continuously, they will actually start believing it as real.
Yeah.
And truth.
I completely agree with that.
So, yeah.
But yeah, moral of the story is if you're in a toxic relationship and you know it,
seek professional advice, because we're just three guys that are listening to your opinion, listening and bringing up the topic.
yeah, we're just giving our opinions.
Yeah.
But if it's my opinion, leave. Leave right now. Save yourself months, even potentially years of grief, of possible psychiatric help just because you didn't want to leave. And if someone calls you out, family or something like, you're in a toxic relationship, you should leave. Think about it. Hear their words. Ask them why they think it's a toxic relationship. Ask for examples. And then don't be afraid to really look into those examples, because I find that when a lot of people who don't believe they're in a toxic relationship hear about the problems that the people are seeing externally, they're like, no, that's not true. He doesn't do that. But it's because they choose not to look into, they choose not to think. They choose not to look at those situations like, was I being gaslit? Maybe I was being gaslit. And then they start going through the conversation like, fuck, I was being gaslit. Shit. My mom was right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they just don't want to look. They don't want to break the facade of this relationship. And so they choose to
continue on,
yeah.
I think there's like one more thing that could be evolved as being the beacon as important person is, yourself. You, as you're listening to them, can also be a mental toll on you hearing these stories that this person might be going through. So it's very important that you try to find your mental state as well while taking all this in.
Yeah, like I mentioned before, when I listened to our mutual friends' stories for like those 5-7 years, it was mentally draining hearing those stories like every other day. I'm like, Jesus Christ, you're not my sister or anything, but god damn, girl. It's too much. It's too much sometimes. And it does get mentally draining, because then you have your own life to deal with and your own social life and your own job and stuff like that, and maybe other troubles you have to deal with. And then on top of that, you're taking on someone else's troubles. It does get mentally exhausting.
Yeah, you need a reset, or you need to do the things that you find kind of recenter yourself from hearing all these sorts of things when you're trying to help someone.
So if you're that person, you also go seek professional help. Yeah, professional help for everyone. It's good for you.
Therapy all around.
Yeah, therapy, counseling. It's good for you.
And government should, make it free.
True. Not in our lifetime.
Nah.
Okay, man.
As we end this episode, we will learn one thing. Guys are pussies, and they don't want to be a bitch, and being toxic is bad.
Agreed
Agree to disagree.
All right. If anyone doesn't have anything else to add, I think we're good to call it an episode.
Yeah. Don't worry, guys. We're not going to take a 2 to 3 month hiatus. That was just because it was summer. We're going to be back.
Yeah.
We're going to be back.
Not because someone canceled on us, but
Oh, my God.
Yeah, we'll cancel on us. So, yeah.
I had to help a friend out, bro.
Yeah, we were those friends once.
We're going to have a conversation after this podcast.
All right.
I throw that bomb in there,
Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. Don't forget to follow us on our social medias at No Sugar Added Podcast and our website at NoSugarAddedPodcast.com and all media platforms at No Sugar Added Podcast.
Yep. Nice. Like it. Okay, guys. Well, see you.
We hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you would like to support, please follow us on your favorite podcast platform and leave a review. Visit us at NoSugarAddedPodcast.com for all the details.